This podcast is brought to you in partnership with EVA International Media Limited. Hello and welcome to Down to Earth with Terry Virts, where we talk about what matters down here on planet Earth. And today we have a very special guest, something a little bit out of the ordinary. We have Stig Karlsen, who is the head of the Norwegian delegation for the Eurovision Song Contest. And Stig, are you coming from Norway? Are you in Norway right now?
Yeah, I'm in Oslo, in the capital of Norway. So yeah.
Okay. So it looks dark. Is it nighttime there?
Oh yeah, this is the way things works in Norway. In the summertime, we have a lot of light, and in the wintertime, it's really dark. So it's up north, on the globe.
Yeah. But you're below the Arctic Circle, right? So you get some daylight.
Yeah. Further up north, it's you can have like some sunlight the whole summer and then dark the whole winter.
Right.
But we get some daylights. Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? So I lived in Finland, actually, when I did an exchange in Finland as a kid, lived with a family there, and it was summertime and it was awesome. But I never got to experience the winter. I've been to Antarctica in the summertime. So I love 24/7 daylight, but what's it like at night, when it's dark all the time?
It follows a lot of depression and stuff. So people have to, get entertained and make life as light as possible with doing fun things watching Eurovision Song Contest.
Well, I want to talk about that. Okay, so this thing, I have a lot of international listeners, but there's a lot of Americans here. And Eurovision, I've heard about it. I lived in Europe several times as a teenager and in college, but I never followed it or watched it or anything like that. It's kind of like soccer. Like, we know about soccer, but nobody really watches it or pays attention that much. But Eurovision is huge, right? It's a really, really big deal. It's a really big deal. I don't think we understand.
It's actually the biggest music event in the world, and it's twice as big as Super Bowl, And I think you can compare it with Super Bowl in many ways, because it's not just about the sport. In this case, not just about the music. It's about a celebration, people getting together, making food. You're just as excited about the sport as you are about the interval act. It's a big celebration. A lot of things going on, but it's all about getting a lot of people together and experience the same things.
Okay, so when does it happen? And is it just one day, or it's like a couple weeks long? Or tell me, how does it work?
Yeah, it's 3 shows, broadcaster shows. It's viewed by around 200 million people. So it's 40 countries following or more. Of course, mainly people from Europe, but there's also a big following all across the world. Mm-hmm. And it's 2 semifinals and 1 grand final. So this lasts over 1 week. So it's a lot of fun.
So it's 3 shows over 1 week, and each show's a couple hours long?
Yeah. I think the grand finals sometimes ends up with almost 4 hours. So it's a long show.
Gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So it's like all the football playoffs in a week, except there's 40 teams, and everybody's team is in it. Then the Super Bowl, there's only 2 teams that people, everyone else watches it and no one really cares who wins. But in this, everybody, every country.
Oh, yeah. And it's around 40 countries, and you have like every country can vote, but you cannot vote on your own country. Otherwise, it would be really, really strange. Right. So every country with its broadcaster, because it's the responsibility for the broadcaster of that country to bring 1 artist and 1 song. And they're competing, and then there's a professional jury, which is 50% of the votes, and then you have the public votes, so televoting, which is the other 50%, and then you end up with a winner, and that country which win will have the event the next year. So it's like a big thing for every country to win this and to bring it home, to have that big event in their home country.
Yeah, of course. What month is it? Is it in the spring or what time of year?
Yeah, it's usually the second week of May.
The second week of May. So it's like we're halfway in between. Like we're 6 months out.
Yeah.
So do you know who is going to be the acts for next year? You're in the process of that right now?
Yeah, I'm running the Norwegian selection for Eurovision. You know,
Yeah.
every country have like a national final.
Right.
We have 21 artists
Right.
and have a big show at a big arena in Norway. And the other countries are doing this as well. And we're gonna have one winner out of those 21 who's gonna proudly travel to Liverpool, UK. It was Ukraine who won last year, but of course it's very difficult to do it there. So
yeah,
it's like a collaboration between Ukraine and UK. So they're doing it in Liverpool.
In Liverpool,
we're going to bring
home of the Beatles.
Yeah, it makes sense to have it there. But when a country going to do this, there's going to be every city wants to do it. So it's like a big, you know, everybody's trying to sell their city to the EBU, which is like the Eurovision Broadcasting Corporation Union. And then, now it ended up in Liverpool, which makes sense because of its history, which is quite special.
I went there. Yeah, I went there a couple of years ago, and I went to Penny Lane, and I went to Strawberry Fields, which is not there anymore. But it was really cool to go to Liverpool, even for a day. And it's a nice city. Liverpool has it has like a reputation of being this industrial, like Gdansk or something. It was a really nice city. It was a cool place.
I agree. I've been there a couple of times, and you know, and I'm a huge Beatles fans, like so many others. But being there, seeing the places which Paul McCartney wrote about, or John Lennon, it's kind of cool to see that for real, because they were writing a lot about their upcoming and where they came from.
What they know. On Penny Lane, there is a barbershop. Actually, I saw it. That was really cool.
Very cool.
So, and that was very nice of the UK. Obviously, Ukraine is in a horrendous situation, being attacked by Russia. Does Russia have? So I want to talk about the movie, which is spectacular. And clearly there's one of the main characters is the Russian guy, and they're making fun of him in many really great ways. But does Russia have an entrant into Eurovision this year?
They usually had, but they are, you know, we locked the door for them because of the situation, you know. So Russia is, you know, they're not doing any big international sports, or they're not doing Eurovision. And that's to make a point, you know. They can't be a part of this while they're starting a war against Ukraine,
while they're destroying a country and killing civilians. So
it's not about, you know, innocent Russians who are, you know, not a part of this, because this is a government thing. But someone has to make a point and say no. At this point, you can't be a part of it. But Russia used to be like a really strong country in Eurovision, and the guy in the movie, he exists.
Sasha Lemtov exists.
Oh yeah, he goes by a different name, but I know that guy. I don't want to say who is, but and his life is just as crazy, maybe even more crazy than in the movie.
Oh my gosh. There's that guy, and the actor, I think Dan Stevens, is American. It's crazy how good he is at playing that Russian part. And there's a funny line, you know, they're making fun of Russia for their anti-LGBT policies, and he says, "Oh, there's no gays in Russia. It's pronouns he, him." It's so funny. It's a great movie. Well,
Uh,
let's
uh,
talk about the
yeah,
movie. Let's talk about the movie. So I again, like I knew that there was a Eurovision, but I didn't know that much. And then I think it's a Netflix film. It's Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. And Will Ferrell's Will Ferrell. He's always great, but Rachel McAdams is amazing. Like she is
I agree.
truly incredible in that movie. She's so good. And Dan Stevens is incredible. And it's this goofy movie about the Icelandic entrant into Eurovision, and they go through all this adventure to finally get to the finals. And it cracks me up. But how realistic is that? Like, is that a country like Iceland, I would imagine, would really get into Eurovision Song Contest?
They're portrayed Eurovision in a really good way. You know,
Yeah.
it is like that, and sometimes even crazier. Of course, it's a movie, so it's going to be different, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much like that, which is crazy. Um, yeah.
Does Norway get into it? Like, if I went to Oslo and asked the average Jan or Olaf or Stain on the street, are they going to know who won in 2015? And
Oh
they'll know
yeah.
all the, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. MGP, which is the Norwegian selection, everybody watches. You know, we're a small country with about 5.5 million people, and
Yeah.
we have 1.2 million viewers, which is
Oh my
crazy.
God.
No show have
Norway
that
is
kind
smaller
of,
than Houston. I'm in Houston right now. Like the greater Houston
yeah.
area has more people than Norway. That's amazing.
So that's cool, and I enjoyed the movie. You know, it's a really good movie, and it all started with Will Ferrell because he has a Swedish wife, so they spend their time in Sweden in the summertime, I think, and then of course they watch Eurovision Song Contest in May, and I think he was so fascinated about it, so I think that was where the idea came from. So he flew to Portugal, to Lisbon, when we were there in 2018, and he started, you know, spending time with us backstage and spending time with the productional people, and you know, walked around just to do some research. It was not known to us at the time, but that was obviously why he was there. And then the year after, he brought the big production team, the film crew, and they used the stage in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and they shot a lot of shots there for the actual movie. So that's actually taken, you know, on day off from the Eurovision production during that nighttime. I don't know when, but
right.
yeah. So it's
that was the real thing. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's an amazing stage. It's a great setup. So every country has their own, I don't know, do they have their own musical styles? Like in the movie, Sweden has a rap group. Like what does Norway have? Do you guys have just death metal?
Yeah.
Like the Finnish, the guys with the big costumes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, besides black metal, it's very popular with the Nordic music, you know, violin. And
yeah.
So what is popular now for not every country, but a lot of countries usually bring something of their own into the pop music and then bring it to Eurovision. So we won with a guy called Alexander Rybak, and he had a fiddle, and
Oh,
it
cool.
was like a mixture of, you know, pop music with traditional Norwegian music, and we see a lot of that. And the same goes for other countries which have different instruments and style and vibe. So that's quite usual that some of the songs that are the biggest success have something of their own that says this is Spain. You know, it's yeah.
I'm trying to think of Norway. Did Aha win? I'm trying to think of Norwegian groups.
They were never a part of it, but I guess
bummer.
they would have won because they're amazing and they won the world.
Yeah. I love them back in the 80s when that Take on Me. Yeah. That was a great song. ABBA won. Apparently in the movie, that's in the movie.
Oh yeah, ABBA won, and that was the start of their career, and we know how that went.
Yeah.
Celine Dion, actually, Celine Dion. And now we have Måneskin, which have been one of the biggest bands the last couple of years, who won in Italy not too long ago.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a big platform.
And it started like in
getting,
the 1950s.
It started back in the 1950s, and of course we can talk about the music, we can talk about the crazy stage shows and the outfits and everything, but it actually started to unite Europe in something positive.
Yeah.
So and at these times it's very important. You know, Eurovision is not going to save the world, but it's that moment where Europe see each other and celebrates unity, celebrating, accepting each other for different culture, and you know, so it has a strange message, which is bigger than the music and bigger than everything else.
Back during the Cold War, did they let like Poland and Czechoslovakia and Romania, were the Eastern countries allowed in?
I can't remember the whole history, but there has been, it's a non-political political competition, but there's always politics. There's always some sort of fighting between countries,
like the Olympics.
And you have and you have like the state leaders, the presidents or prime ministers, you know, talking about it and having their opinion about it. So it's really, really strange and crazy.
It's bragging rights.
That's you know, this is the same as you said with the Olympics.
So does Norway, like, who's your rival? Sweden? You're trying to like beat the Swedes?
Of course. Always Sweden. And you know, they're really good at pop music, so they're a hard competition to beat. We always, you know, beat them. You know, ski sports is a big thing. You know? But sometimes we get to beat them in music, but they are really good, and they are the country with, I think, second after Ireland, the one who have won the most times. 6 times or something. Yeah.
Ireland has amazing musicians. I was in Dublin a couple years ago, and just going into pubs, there's like some guy playing guitar for 10 people who's just amazing. Like the guys can just sing there and play guitar. It was amazing.
Dublin is fantastic. You know, going to a bar and the people are so friendly, and it's one of the really, really, really nice places on earth to.
I love Ireland. Did you two ever do Eurovision?
No, they haven't.
No.
No. You know, it's very, there's a lot of big artists who have been a part of this, but it's kind of difficult for successful artists to compete in music, you know, because that's what they do all the time. If you start counting streams and how many stages you can fill, but it's kind of hard for them to be on a television show competing. So that's always a challenge for me as a music curator to get people on. But so U2 is one of them. Maybe next year, who knows?
U2 and the Eurovision, that would be
that would be good.
That would be amazing. So there's these things in the movie. Yeah, Ding Dong. Yeah. Is that a thing? Is that a
it is now.
Didn't the guy, the judge or the host made some joke about that this year or something?
Yeah. Because that, you know, everybody talks about it. Everybody sings on that song.
It's the song in the movie, really, for those who haven't seen the movie.
Have you been to Iceland?
I stopped in Iceland on my way to and from Europe, but I've never. I need to be. I really. I mean, it looks like an incredible place to see. But I have not.
Yeah, because I think what you see in the movie is kind of like I experienced Iceland, going to these small cities and cozy bars, and it's really nice.
Does the UK really never win? Like nobody ever gives points to the UK?
They used to win a lot,
Yeah,
back in the days. But at some point, it seems like they didn't even care to win because it was more like a novelty show to them rather than bringing quality artists.
right,
So there's always a balance, I think, in Eurovision with having sophisticated, amazing artists and having the show element.
right.
So it's and I think the music industry in UK stopped caring about it. It was still a big TV show, but mostly for entertainment. So,
Right.
but I think they're getting back into the game because they have the last one, he came second, which was the biggest success in many years, and that also why it made sense for them to do this together with Ukraine
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next
yeah.
year.
So
So yeah,
so it's being hosted by the second place
yeah,
winner. Yeah.
and but they're hosting it with Ukraine. There's going to be um, we're going to be reminded in many ways that it was Ukraine that won.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, because a part of the show is also bringing the culture of the country which wins into
Right.
the interval acts and the opening, and we have these postcards in front of each artist showing sites from the country and stuff. Obviously, they're not going to show a lot from Ukraine now because we're not going to be reminded about the terrible
The
things
war.
happening
Yeah.
there before every song. But it's going to be a different Eurovision in many ways.
Yeah, that's very cool. When you see Ukraine, a lot of time, well, I've seen towns do promotional videos, they do drone flybys, and you can see this is a really cool town, for tourism. And it's amazing to see those videos of Ukrainian towns. Like Mariupol was a beautiful city, and now it's just been destroyed. So I'm really glad that Ukraine gets to host it. I think that'll be good for their image, and that'll be good. But the countries that are in it are not only Europe. You said like Israel's part of it. What other non-European
Yeah,
countries are in it?
Australia. This is
Australia.
because
Wow.
it's kind of strange because it's called Eurovision Song Contest, but it's actually about EBU, which is the European Broadcasting Union. And if you're a member of that union, you might be allowed to be a part of it. At least you can apply for it.
Huh.
And the thing is that Eurovision have been such a big event in Australia for so many years.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure. But as a morning show, because
Yeah.
that's when it's on there. And so they applied to be a part of it, and they've been for since 2015, I think, or something like that.
Wow.
And it keeps growing because not too long ago you did American Song Contest.
Yeah.
I think it didn't do very well, but it's building. It takes time to build something like that. And now they're doing Canada Song Contest and Latin America Song Contest. So it's gonna. I think they're aiming for world domination when it comes to music shows.
That would be, and so you could do a North America, South America, like an America's Song Contest. But it just, I don't know, it's not Eurovision. Eurovision's had so many years. It has such a passionate fan. In America, we have shows like I don't watch them, but like The View or America's Got Talent. There's a couple of really popular shows that are similar to that, but it doesn't. Eurovision is like the Olympics of music.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. What they're trying to do in America is to have the different states being a part of it. 50
Yeah,
states to stardom or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there is a big cultural difference between the states
Oh yeah,
as well. But in Europe, at least, there's a very big cultural difference between the countries. But I would think there's quite different between the states as well. But of course, this is the same language. You have a lot of the same references from television shows and
Right.
radio.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not as
So
different as European countries, but that's an interesting idea. I'm sure a producer is going to try and make some money making that show.
sure. Whatever they can do to
Yeah,
make
to
some
get that
success
done.
there, I think they're gonna.
So speaking of producers, were you a music producer, or how did you get the job of like running the Norwegian Eurovision delegation?
I've worked in television for many years. I
Okay.
started out as an assistant. I was making coffee,
Right.
um, doing whatever needed to be done so other could do, like
The
what
big
I'm
stuff.
doing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just somebody saw me and I got to, impress them with what I was doing. And then I got bigger and bigger tasks. So I've been in the television industry for 25 plus years and done music shows for the last 15 years or so. And
Mhm.
just NRK, which is the Norwegian broadcaster, is kind of my school and my road to what I'm doing today. And now I'm part of the biggest music show we have. So that's really cool. Because I didn't do very well in school, so I had to do something else. But I want to ask you this because I was thinking, I think it's a big honor to be on your podcast because I'm a huge fan of, the space shuttle program.
Yeah.
I followed it from I was a kid from Enterprise up until Endeavor, and I'm so fascinated about everything. I'm not the only one. I think you hear this a lot, but you could have been like had a dream and worked your way to being a lawyer or a dentist or something else. But did you have like a goal? Did you have a dream from when you started to think about what you were going to do when you grew up?
Yeah, for me,
Or
for sure. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I tell the story. The first book I ever read was about Apollo. It was one of those cardboard, one line per page for kindergartners. And so I grew up with posters with space pictures on my wall, and it's just what I wanted to do ever since I was little. So I was very lucky. I got to do my childhood dream. And which is not true for all astronauts. Some kind of came to that later in life, but for me, it was, that's what I wanted to do ever since I was little. And it was awesome. It was really
amazing.
cool. It was really cool. Yeah. And I had a chance to spend over 7 months in space. Flew on the space shuttle, flew on the Russian Soyuz, spent a lot of time in Russia. I love my Russian colleagues, and I really enjoyed spending time there, which makes what's happening now a lot more painful for me personally, just to see what they're doing now. But it was pretty awesome to see the world from space. I have some friends who are artists. One guy in particular, a guy named Brandon Heath, who's an amazing singer. He's a Christian singer in America, but he's a really talented artist. And so I made a little video like with their music playing with the Earth going by, and they really love that. It was pretty cool for them to do that. I did, another thing I did, my friend Bill MacArthur was in space. I was the Capcom. I was the guy in Mission Control, talking to him, and we tied him into a Paul McCartney concert.
Wow.
So he was like live on stage with Paul McCartney from the space station, which is pretty cool. That was almost 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, but yeah. So yeah, astronauts love music too. And, I flew a bunch of CDs to give to, the musicians when I came back to Earth. So, and listening to music was a huge part. We had, when I went up, there was a lady named Beth Turner who's wonderful. She's the best person at NASA. She helps us like with our families and stuff. And she would make recordings of TV shows and movies and music. So I gave her my Pandora account, and she just recorded music off of Pandora. And I have, like everything in my life, I'm very ADD. I like country music and dance music and classical music. I like every kind of music, 80s, pop, alternative. So except for Norwegian death metal, I'm really not into that too much. But anyway, so she would send me up like 3-hour chunks of, she would just hit play on Pandora and record it. And I would have these, and I still have all these 3-hour sets of music that she sent. So we had speakers, you could play music on speakers, or we had headsets, you could listen via headsets. So music is a huge part of a space mission. It kind of keeps you motivated and keeps you connected to Earth.
What is the favorite music to play when you're in space?
My favorite.
What's your favorite?
Yeah. You know, one of the things I love doing when I was floating over Africa or South America, at nighttime, you see thunderstorms, and they're incredible. I have a video I show when I do speaking, and it's just amazing how many lightning flashes are happening. And so I would put on Enya's Storms in Africa. And it was just amazing to be floating there, looking up at Earth with lightning going off, listening to Enya, you know, the very instrumental music. Yeah. And I had there's a Christian artist named Stephen Curtis Chapman who did a song, All Things New, and I listened to that before I did my spacewalks. And then I was on a spacewalk watching the sunrise, hearing this song in my brain from Stephen Curtis Chapman. That was really cool. It was, the music for me was an important part of the emotional experience in space, because it's such an emotional experience for me. I think for some guys, they're like, oh wow, there's Earth, they just want to get back to work, and they're more interested in the work they're doing on the space station. For me, I did all my work and it was enjoyable, but the best thing was seeing the planet, you know, looking out at the universe. And it was a very emotional thing, and music was a part of that for me, for sure. You know, it's one thing, every person does not like chocolate, or every person does not like a warm sunny day on the beach, or every person doesn't like everything except for music. Music is the one thing that, like, every human being, no matter what your culture is. Now, Chinese music is very different than Argentine music, whatever. There's different kinds of music, but everybody likes music. It's like the one thing that everybody likes. You know, I think that's true.
It does connect people. It does bring emotions, you know, in a very special way. So I think you're right. I never thought of that, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes chocolate, but it's true. Everybody
likes music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I just have to ask you, because, you know, people have different dreams. You have people dreaming about owning their a house with a nice garden, and that's it, and that's totally fine. And then you have people, you know, thinking about being a doctor or a brain surgeon, or running a television show.
Right.
But I think the ultimate achievement, in a way, is becoming an astronaut and getting to travel into space, because it's such I would think it's a difficult road, and there's a lot of hard work, and it's very few people that get to experience that. What did it take for you to, you know, go from dreaming about it and to being an astronaut, being a pilot on the spaceship, space shuttle, and you know, doing all the stuff that you've done?
Well, I'm very fortunate and lucky, and you know, America spent a lot of money to fly me in space, so I'm very appreciative of that, for sure. Part of it takes luck. There's thousands of people that apply. Europe just had a new astronaut class, and I think they had over 20,000 people apply for maybe 12 or something. Not a lot of people got picked. And it's been over a decade since they had their last class. So part of it is luck. There's a lot of other, probably smarter, better looking test pilots than I was. But Stig, the first thing, and this is kind of, I do speaking for a living, and one of the messages that I have when I do talks is don't tell yourself no. Whatever the dream is, if you want to be an astronaut, or you want to be a rock star, you want to be a TV producer, whatever. If you tell yourself no, you're not going to get it. The first step of going for it is the most important step. And if you want to be a TV producer, you can't just run Eurovision overnight. Like, you have to start off as the assistant making coffee. And there's different ways to go to be an astronaut, a professional astronaut. Now there's, tourists. And so you got to go make billions of dollars. So get a job at a hedge fund or go work in Silicon Valley. But if you want to be a, NASA astronaut, you need education, and technical math and science and engineering kind of education is super important. And then operational experience. So something flying or scuba diving, or you have to do something besides just sit in a room and write equations on blackboards, because that's not what astronauts do at all. Astronauts are actually doing things that, as opposed to like thinking things, we do things. And so for me, it was the pilot route. I was an F-16 pilot and then test pilot. And then I got picked. I was very, very lucky when I got picked. But I think the key is make the decision you're going to do it. Don't tell yourself no. And then you can't just say, I want to be a doctor. Like, a lot of people say they want to do stuff, but talk is cheap, right? Words are easy. You have to actually pick your path and then try and do it. And if you have giant dreams, you're probably not going to get them. So you have to be ready for failure. And if you fail, like in Hollywood, I don't know what NRK is like, but I'm doing different TV and film projects right now. And you hear no constantly. It's just you know what I'm saying, right? It is no. Or then it's like, yeah, that's great, let's do it. And then it never happens, or, so you have to be ready for failure, and don't let it, just because you fail once, don't let that crush you. Get back up and try it again and do different things. I think the ability to handle failure is really important. When I was looking at astronaut applications, my last job at NASA before I retired was helping them go over tens of thousands of applications. And the one thing that was kind of a red flag for me was the perfect person, like the person who had perfect grades and was always number one at everything they did, and like they never failed at anything. And some of those guys get picked as astronauts, and they're usually not the nicest astronauts, because they're just, it's better to have like a real human being who's had some ups and downs than the guy that's always been number one and always gets his way at everything. So that was something that I looked for.
It's very inspirational and very impressive. And I think it was really nice to hear you talk about this. And it is important, other things than just, being number one at everything.
Yeah.
It's you need humans with experience, being a human.
Yeah.
On different levels. So very inspirational. Did it change you, going to space? Is there a time before and after?
Yeah, that's something that I've been working on, maybe trying to tell that story. I hope it changed me in a good way, but I think it did. I mean, I can't speak for other astronauts. I think everybody's unique. I think my perspective on life is a lot less black and white. I was a very black and white guy when I was younger. I can see different shades of gray, and, some things are wrong. What Russia's doing in Ukraine is wrong. There's no gray area there. But about most things on Earth, most relationships with humans, there's there's different ways to do things. So hopefully I'm less of a black and white person. I think that's probably the main way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We had last year, for Eurovision, we had the winner of MGP, the Norwegian selection, was a band called Subwoolfer, which was two yellow wolves, which had a backstory. They were from the moon, and then they traveled to Earth,
right,
to be a part of Eurovision Song Contest. They had been to all the different talent concerts on different planets, and now it was Earth. Really funny concept. They had a major hit with a song called "Give That Wolf a Banana." You should check them out. But
what are they called? I'm going to check them out.
Yeah, Subwoolfer, not like the now I can't even remember what the real name of it. Not like in the sound system, but Subwoolfer, like a wolf.
Subwoolfer. Yeah. Subwoolfer. I love that.
Which is
That is funny. I will check them out. I've got my list of notes here. Yeah.
Good.
Give that wolf a banana. That's funny. Well, Stig, this has been really good. Yeah, go ahead.
So when are you coming to Liverpool to join the party with us?
I should be there in May, I guess. Actually, I just got what do you know what day it is in May? I just got a request for an event in Europe in May. Maybe I'll be there.
It's the grand final is on the 13th of May.
I'm writing it down. That would be really amazing. It's going to be packed though. There's got to be tens of thousands of people there.
Yeah, but I'll tell the people running this that there's an astronaut from the States coming.
Get me a flat.
Sure.
that would be awesome. Well, Stig, thanks. This is something that, like I said, most of my guests or most of my listeners probably have not heard of before or know much about. So hopefully we can see it. I don't know if it's available in the States. There's probably some way you can watch it online or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's streamed on YouTube. Yeah,
it's on YouTube. Okay, so I will definitely be watching it and rooting for the Norwegian team and the Ukrainian team and the Icelandic team.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. This is a big honor for me to talk to you. Like I told you, I've been a huge fan of the spatial program and everything space. So
me too.
Yeah, it's been so great. Thank you.
This is great, Stig. Thank you. And don't forget to give us a rating. Down to Earth with Terry Virts. Give us a rating and subscribe to the podcast. So thanks, everybody.